along the way and reliving some of the great moments. It's been a long trip, really. We've gone from Alan Shepard in that first tiny space capsule to the mammoth space shuttle. And as I say, we've had a lot of adventures along the way. But it all started on April 29th, 1961, like this. I'm Jim McKay at Franklin Field in Philadelphia for the 67th annual Penn Relay Carnival. Each Saturday for the next 20 weeks, we'll be taking our cameras to the scene of famous sports events all over the world. A new series crossing new horizons in sports. Sports, in its unending variety, unfolds on ABC's wide world of sports, capturing the sight and sound, the emotion, the beauty and history-making achievements wherever men gather to compete in this great wide world of athletics. Who would have thought that the 20-week series would stretch to 20 years, or that in that first summer we would take 20 tons of equipment and half 100 engineers to Moscow to see a U.S.-Soviet track meet and to watch wonderful Wilma Rudolph. Taking it, jumping over out in front, and Rudolph giving it everything. Here she comes, Wilma Rudolph, making her way to the finish line. She's going to make it. Who could have predicted that we would be the first network sports department to visit Castro's Cuba for a volleyball game? Or that Castro himself would end up translating for his interpreter.
Can you tell me what the commandante said?
Dice, el comandante dice que él cree.
We were first in network sports to visit the People's Republic of China, too, for gymnastics. But while we were there, we saw the wall and met the people and found a surprising friendliness everywhere we went. We were up at dawn with our cameras to watch thousands of Chinese taking their morning exercise in the great square. Among them, the old people, practicing the ancient art of Tai Chi. We journeyed up the Danube on our way to Vienna in 1967 and saw those famous castles. In Vienna, in the last World Championships of figure skating held outdoors, we watched and marveled at the artistry of Ludmila and Oleg Protopopov, world pairs champions from the Soviet Union. Who might have guessed that in time they would defect and do their skating in the United States? Or that 12 years later, we would return to Vienna to watch the young Americans, Ty Babylonia and Randy Gardner, win the championship that the Protopopovs had worn so well. We found summertime sentiment back home in Indiana as the balloons rose to the sky, signifying the start of the Indianapolis 500. We watched the great drivers compete, from A.J. Foyt to Jim Clark and Johnny Rutherford to Mario Andretti, here winning in 1969 and getting for his reward a kiss from car owner Andy Granatelli. Who would have thought that we would visit Las Vegas, where the neon lights and flashing incandescent bulbs obscure the beauty of the western sunset, not for the shows or the gambling, but for sport, ranging from rodeos to boxing, especially boxing. WBC champion Larry Holmes here. But we also saw Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard and many more. We've seen the wide world, all right, but no sunset anywhere looks better than the ones we see arriving back home in New York. And no castle on the Rhine or great sculpture in Italy ever looks quite as good as the Statue of Liberty when the plane lowers over Manhattan on its way to LaGuardia or JFK, and we know that we're almost home again. Still, who would have thought 20 years ago that we'd have a night like this, when the great athletes we've seen would gather with us as the sun sets on Park Avenue to recall the times that have been, athletes like O.J. Simpson and Mario Andretti. Wilma Rudolph still looking wonderful 20 years later. 1968 decathlon champion Bill Toomey. Eric Heiden, he of the 5 gold medals. Fred Pierce, president of ABC Television, is with us. And so is the great mile runner Jim Ryan. Dr. and Mrs. Greg Jenkins, she's Peggy Fleming. Mr. and Mrs. Arthur Ashe. Susan Anton is here to sing. Mr. and Mrs. Muhammad Ali They've all come to Park Avenue in the Waldorf, where Winston Churchill spoke and Elsa Maxwell gave a party for Cole Porter, where presidents and astronauts have gathered, where the Explorers Club has feasted on quail eggs and hippopotamus, and where tonight we'll toast that 20-year journey through the wide world of sports. Sport. The thrill of victory. And the agony of defeat. The human drama of athletic competition. Tonight we celebrate 20 years of ABC's Wide World of Sports.
The special 20th anniversary edition of ABC's Wide World of Sports is brought to you by Michelob Light, an exceptional light beer with a rich, smooth taste. By Cellini Cologne, created in Italy by Fabergé, where life is for living and loving. Viva Cellini. And by the Continental Insurance Companies and their 12,000 agents throughout the U.S. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Grand Ballroom of the Waldorf Astoria in New York, Mr. Jim McKay.
Thank you. To tell you why we are here, we simply have to say, who is here? And who is here are the people who made ABC's Wide World of Sports, after 20 years, what it is. The longest running, most successful sports series in the history of television. And those people range from Leonard Goldenson, who had faith in his little old raggle-taggle sports department back in 1961, to Roone, who, of course, produced all those shows in the early days personally and still the guiding spirit of everything we do, to the men and women of the ABC sports production team, week after week and year, and 36, 48 hours at a time sometimes, to broadcast operations and engineering, Julie Barnathan's people, to, yes, indeed, the commentators, who have spoken some of the finest English sentences ever heard. The sales guys have gone out and have sold the commercials, without which we wouldn't be on the air. John Lazarus and his men. But primarily, the people who have made this show and the people we want to honor tonight are the athletes, because it's been through them that we've had the grist for our mill. We have had the stories to tell. We have the wonderful things to see. These athletes who through their dedication, through their talent, and through their personality also have made Wide World of Sports what it is.
Where in the wide world they would come from, we never could predict. Those ones with the extra human contact. The ones we came to know by their first names, like friends. This was Olga.
Her name is Olga Korbut of the Soviet Union, and you must remember how she burst on the world at the Olympics, doing things on the slender balance beam that made you hold your breath. On the uneven bars, she did maneuvers never seen in a championship before. And in the floor exercises, she was like a happy, talented child playing in the sun. I asked her in Munich what she would like most to see in America.
Вообще не знаю. Но я бы очень хотела побывать в Нью-Йорке.
I simply don't know. I really can't tell I would like to see. But what I would like to see probably was New York.
She wanted to see New York. And now on this early spring weekend, she is here. Same routine as that Monday night.
Now here it comes. No margin for error. Back Summy catch. She did it again. And watch this free drop into a hip circle. There's just no let up in this exercise. Pivot, stomach whip, drop kip, and the dismount.
That was Olga. They came in different sizes and colors and spoke many different tongues. Edson Arantes do Nascimento, known to the world as Pelé, here leading Brazil to the World Cup Soccer Championship in Mexico, 1970. When his career seemed over, he came to America and built the sport with the power of his personality. Then played his farewell game one rainy day in New Jersey.
Please say to me, say with me, 3 times. Love. Love. And love. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado.
Yes, love is what this day is about. The love of this man for a game and his love for the children of the world who play it. The love of hundreds of millions of people around the world for this warm and simple man who so obviously believes what he says. Join us as we say farewell to Pelé.
Pelé celebrated the day the way he knew best.
Pelé with a hard shot into the goal. A shot into the goal. Pelé has scored in his last half for the Cosmos. And this is what today is all about. The music is Auld Lang Syne, but it isn't New Year's Eve because there's no tomorrow in the career of Pelé. No New Year coming, not as far as that playing career is concerned. But we said the story was about love today. And there it is. The love of the man for the people, the love of the people for the man, the kind of a hero we all want to see.
Then there was Arnie, as in Palmer, enlisting all of Scotland as recruits in his army the day they almost crushed him with admiration at Troon.
Wait a minute. Here he comes. He made it. And I hope that is a mock limp Palmer's putting on as he finally gets up to the 18th tree.
Kel Nagel made a great putt, and then
Now Arnold Palmer with about a 20-footer. He could play this pretty safely, lag it up, get his par 4, and break the record by a shot. Hello. And he made it. Arnold Palmer breaks the record for the British Open by 2 shots with a total of 276.
the word is used in horse racing and boxing and in life, and Smokin' Joe always had it, in victory or defeat, in good times or bad. The word is class.
Frazier giving it to him and giving it to him. Right there. A left that missed, another right that connected. Down goes Ellis. Down goes Ellis.
And Joe Frazier had won the title. Later, Howard would unconsciously echo that phrase he used when Joe lost his title to George Foreman one night on the island of Jamaica.
I think he hurt Joe Frazier. I think Joe is hurt. Angie Dundee, Ali's trainer, right next to me is saying it. You may hear him. Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!
Yes, it's been a long trip for Smokin' Joe, from working in a Philadelphia slaughterhouse to the heavyweight championship of the world to the permanent place he holds tonight with the other great personalities of sport. You'll meet many more as we celebrate 20 years of Wide World of Sport. Seen courage and daring displayed in many ways in many places on Wide World. Consider the men who climbed the Eiffel Tower one Sunday afternoon to celebrate its 75th anniversary.
The last thing these men do will be to hang out over the city of Paris with their backs literally facing the street and surmount the final overhang. That will be the most difficult part of the climb. It will come, obviously, when they are most tired. Again, a good look at Paris in the background here. The beautiful buildings of this loveliest of all cities. It's been described as looking like a woman with flowers in her hair.
As they climbed the northwest pillar, using the rivet heads for footholds, the mountaineers paused at each level, once for some lunch and a bottle of wine, then finally were up and over. That was a scheduled climb. But George Willig's ascent of the World Trade Center in New York was strictly his own idea. We followed George after that, and we're televising live from Angel's Landing in Zion National Park when Bill Fleming described a shocking moment. George was very near the top, but suddenly in trouble.
Oh, my God. George, are you all right? Yep.
You okay, George?
Yep. You sure? Yep. Hang on for a second and check yourself.
Don't even try to talk.
Just knocked the wind out of me.
Just hang there for a minute, George.
Yeah, I'm fine.
George Willing's near disaster, some 1,400 feet above the base of Angel's Landing. After catching his breath, he finished the climb. There was the Frenchman, Philippe Petit, walking a tightrope between the towers of a French cathedral. He told us why he does it.
I love to climb, I love to live my life, and here in the middle of that ride, you really feel that you live, because you are carrying your life from one side to another. To feel myself living, that's the main thing. But on the other way, there is also, I love to do shows. I love to show myself.
My name is Evel Knievel. I'm a professional daredevil.
It's been 6.5 years now since Evel made good on his boast to try to cross a canyon on a machine he called a sky cycle. It was an attempt doomed to failure, but one of the happenings of the mid-1970s.
You had a premature shoot. You have a good shoot on you. Come on. Stay with the vehicle. Stay with the vehicle. Put your visor up if you can.
The end of the flight of Evel, but he had at last made the attempt and come out uninjured. Later in London, he was not so lucky.
Oh, my God.
Although badly hurt, he insisted on walking out of the stadium that day, later recovered and jumped again. There was the moral courage of baseball star Curt Flood, pioneering the cause of players' rights in his suit against the reserve clause. It ended a great career.
Well, it's been said and it's been written, Curt, that you're a man who makes $90,000 a year, which isn't exactly slave wages. What's your retort to that?
Well, Howard, a well-paid slave is nonetheless a slave.
We've seen the courage of the downhill racer, a special breed of athlete who pits his skill and concentration against a snow-covered mountainside, but still must hope, like a gambler, for luck, because one unseen rock or rut can cost even the expert the race, or possibly his life. Jean-Claude Keely's performance and personality summed up the beauty and the glamour of ski racing. One day in Vail, Colorado, 16 years ago, Jean-Claude flew down the hill in a pink shirt. It was a moment that said a lot about the sport, the man, and the special flair of a Frenchman. Here he was winning a world championship in Chile the following year as Wide World followed him to South America. This was Phil Mayer in a World Cup race on Lake Placid's Whiteface Mountain less than a year before the 1980 Winter Olympics. He was America's top Olympic skiing hope, but after this run, many thought that his career was over. He seemed to be going well, but then he suddenly fell and broke his left ankle badly. To reassemble the ankle required a metal plate and 7 screws. There you see it. Almost unbelievably, he recuperated, trained hard, and came back to win a silver medal in those Olympics. Then this season became the first American ever to win the overall World Cup championship. We recall the courage of our 1968 Athlete of the Year, Bill Toomey, as he won the decathlon in the Mexico City Olympics at age 29.
Here is Bill Toomey, running in the footsteps of Jim Thorpe and Rafer Johnson and Bob Mathias. Running in the cold and the dark of Mexico City, in the breathless air, winning the decathlon.
Bill Toomey in a memorable moment of sportsmanship with Kurt Bendelin of Germany. He had overcome age and the early handicap of a serious hand problem. And he's with us tonight.
Congratulations to ABC, and it's a superb evening. I mean, I just have to say that this is one of the most outstanding evenings that I've had in a long time. And I really want to thank everybody here for, I guess ABC has done more for the Olympic movement than any organization in America outside of the U.S. Olympic Committee. They have made heroes out of unknown people. I lived in a closet for 8 years training, and all of a sudden I was a somebody. But I have to congratulate not only the fact that they covered, but the creativity and the way they covered with the tremendous sensitivity. And in 20 years of television, ABC has not only led the way, they have created a situation whereby they have initiated imitators to follow in their footsteps. Rune, you've done a tremendous job. Jim, the years you've spent have not been wasted. You have brought amateur sports to America, and it is because of the work that ABC has done that we have athletes to follow in the footsteps of the great athletes that are here tonight. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, man. In the winter of 1962, this young man from North Carolina
achieved an honor that can never be taken away from him. One night in the Los Angeles Sports Arena, Jim Beatty became for all time the first man ever to run a mile in less than 4 minutes indoors, and thereby became our first athlete of the year.
Jim Beatty pulling it on. Here comes the gun lap. Watch him go, turning on the sprint. He's turning up. He's riding right at 4 minute pace, Jim. He's very good. Close to 4 minutes. Sensationally close. Jim Beatty seeing track history right here and now. He still has about 40 yards to go. He's going to make it. He's going to run the first 4 minute mile.
The official time, 3:58.9, the first indoor sub-4 minute mile. We've seen many firsts on Wide World. Don Jackson in Prague trying a jump never landed before as we watched with Dick Button.
He is going to open his program with a triple Lutz jump. 3 revolutions from a Lutz position. The first ever done in world competition. Let's see how he does it. He has planned it. Let's see what happens. Here it comes. A beautiful triple Lutz. It's fantastic.
Every time we saw Valery Brumel of the Soviet Union, he seemed to be the first to clear a new height. He set world high jump records on our telecasts in 1961 and 62, and again in 63.
Valery Brumel of the Soviet Union has set another new world record for the third year in a row, 75 3/4 inches. To the applause of many tens of thousands of people here at Lenin Stadium in Moscow, applauded by Khrushchev and Ambassador Harriman.
A.J. Foyt is the first and only man to win 4 Indy 500s, but in 1967, he was first to achieve an unusual double. First, he would take the 500, but not before a stunning last lap crash almost deprived him of victory.
And there's an accident on the front straightaway. 2, 3, 4 cars. Where's Foyt? I don't know whether he can get through or not. Hitting the wall. Bouncing back across the straightaway. Foyt's only got a couple hundred yards to go, but where is he? There he is! He's running it through. A.J. Foyt will win the Indianapolis 500 in an incredible, thrilling finish.
A fortnight later, he participated in the famous running start, now a thing of the past, at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in France. He had very little experience making the right and left turns of a road course or in driving a race at night. But he and his co-driver, Dan Gurney, another American, won the 24 Hours, and A.J. was the master of Indy and Le Mans, the first to achieve it. It was a mark of the changes in our society when Renee Richards became the first transsexual to play championship women's tennis and told us about it.
I've been through a great deal in my life personally, and I've been through a great deal as a physician. And this, although it's a very big strain, I have to admit that emotionally, psychologically for me in front of all these people in this setting, is not the kind of strain that is going to destroy me, because no strain of this type can destroy me.
There was the huge, haughty Vasily Alexiev, becoming the first human ever to lift more than a quarter ton, as our longtime colleague Bob Beatty called it.
But now, the big thing, can he become the first man to lift a quarter of a ton, 500 pounds? Oh, he has the clean. He has it if he can hold it. He does. Alexiev of Russia has just lifted 501.5 pounds. The first man ever in competition to lift over 500 pounds.
And there was the tiny Kathy Rigby in Yugoslavia. Up until that day, no American, male or female, had ever won a medal of any kind in the World Gymnastics Championships. It was another first.
A slight error there, that may cause a 1 to 2/10 deduction. But this is the only error so far in the routine. And a full twisting front somersault. A great exercise.
Kathy Rigby of the United States has made her effort. Kathy Rigby is the first person from her country to win a medal of any kind in the World Gymnastics Championships. There she is.
The first American gold medal would come 8 years later in France. Kurt Thomas suddenly with a chance for the title.
Double back. Boy, he's laying it in. Now watch this as Thomas Flair on the floor.
You think they're paying attention in Terre Haute, Indiana?
The crowd loves him. Listen to the reaction. My God, Jim, if this kid comes home with a gold medal...
That's what it looks like right now, unless there's a big mistake.
He needs to hit a double twister. That's all he needs. Now nail it. Kurt Thomas! Maybe a gold medal. All right, America, you got him.
Yes, Kurt Thomas won the gold. And so at the same championships in Strasbourg did Marcia Frederick of Connecticut. The quiet teenager won the first American gold in women's competition with this performance on the uneven bars. And speaking of first, the first time we saw Nadia Comaneci, she was an unknown 13-year-old at the European Championships in Norway, 1975. She wasn't unknown for long, winning 4 gold medals and a silver for Romania. The name of the music had not yet been changed to Nadia's theme. That would come at the Olympics, when she would get 7 perfect marks. But the first 10 we saw her achieve was at the American Cup in New York. It was just a few months before the Olympics. And by now, the former gymnast Kathy Rigby was our commentator.
There's her last tumbling run. A double twist. Beautiful. Look at the height on that.
She had achieved that rarity, a perfect mark, and there were many more to come. She became our Athlete of the Year for 1976. Nadia, who made the number 10 famous long before Bo Derek came along. Dark and drafty arena in Cleveland at the U.S. National Championships.
This is Peggy Fleming, 15 years old from Pasadena, California. The big surprise of this championship so far. She has never participated in the National Senior Championship at all. She never won a national novice title or a national junior title. But she's in 3rd place at the end of the school figures, and reputedly, her free skating is the best part of her repertoire.
Well, Peggy won, and 4 years later was Olympic champion when she skated in the Worlds at Geneva.
First